Yes, definitely. I mean, let's not forget also that this is this 9 to 10 hour visit to this French Mediterranean island, coming just 2 days before Pope Francis turns 88. We saw him in this 47th papal visit of his pontificate, looking fairly energized, although he did seem to have a bruise on his face. We are told that was because of what happened to him, a fall about a week ago. But yes, essentially he did travel to the island to close an international conference to talk about the idea of popular religious traditions, expressions of popular piety, if you like. Now, that includes things like processions as well as communal prayer or the celebrations of feast days, anything that comes outside of formal liturgy. And Pope Francis has been a strong supporter of this, even before he became Pope, when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. So speaking at the closing, he talked about how this could be used to nurture constructive dialogue and collaboration between the religious and the secular spheres of society. However, he stressed it should not be exploited, and he warned that priests should be on their lookout and vigilant to those that are trying to exploit this idea, spiritual groups that may be fueling political divisions in such a way. So really, it was quite interesting to hear him talk about this, but he was also all about being with the faithful. As you mentioned, some 80% of Corsica is Catholic, so there was a strong turnout of people on the street waving to him, and some 7,000 people attended the Mass that he celebrated, an open-air Mass for this event. For the Corsicans, of course, this was a major event. And then en route back to Rome at the airport, meeting the French president, President Macron, flying into Corsica just to meet the Pope on French territory. It is said from the Elysee that they will be discussing things like the conflicts happening around the world, as well as other issues such as climate change, of course, an issue very close to the heart of Pope Francis.
Just going to go to these live images because this is the scene from the airport at the moment, where you have President Macron, along with Pope Francis, walking side by side, Pope Francis in the wheelchair, and they're meeting cardinals as well. Let's try and have a listen if we can pick up some of the sound of the talk going on. You know, you have to have ears like dogs, I think, Seema, to be picking that conversation up from there. Very interesting, because you kind of have to learn your own diplomatic language to kind of understand some of the messages sometimes, Seema, don't you, from the Pope, and understand what he's saying. Do you think, tell me about the relationship between these two, the President Macron, that is, and the Pope, and how, you know, his visit would have gone down perhaps diplomatically to the French?
Well, I think these two leaders, the leaders of the Catholic Church and the leader of France, I mean, they've met on several occasions. They have talked about various issues and the conflicts going around the world. It's interesting to note that Pope Francis delivered his Angelus, his weekly Sunday blessing on the island of Corsica today. And he talked about prayers for peace, highlighting that there has to be peace. And he highlighted conflicts happening in the Palestinian territories, in Israel, in Lebanon, Syria, Myanmar, and also touched on the fighting between the Russians and Ukrainians, saying that war is always defeat. Now, so clearly he's going to be touching on that issue with the French president. There is some concern. Some observers of the Catholic Church in France believe, well, perhaps maybe the Catholic Church not too happy with the way the French government has been taking certain issues, such as the right to abortion being placed in the Constitution, as well as how things are going in terms of relationships and dealings with the migrant communities in the country. And that is migration, another very important issue and clear and close to the heart of the pontiff. I mean, this visit yet again to the Mediterranean. He's already been to Malta. He went to the island of Lesbos. He was also made his very first visit when he became Pope to the Italian island of Lampedusa, that also sees a lot of migrant arrivals. And once again to Corsica as well. So migration, another topic close to him. So it's a very clear distinction for this pontiff as to whether to go go to Paris, as you mentioned, to something like the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral. But he's very much, as he's often said himself, about the church of the peripheries, going to the places where the communities are strong, talking on the issue of popular piety, but also perhaps maybe trying to get to the crux of issues like migration as well as climate change, topics that are important to him. So he hasn't been to Paris, but he hasn't been to other major European capitals either. But he has made 3 visits to France, whether it was to Strasbourg to address the European Parliament or to Marseille in 2023, and now, of course, in Corsica.
Thank you, Seema. These are lovely images, actually, as we're watching the live images of an embrace and their kiss from Emmanuel Macron to the Pope. There's a clearly warm feeling there at the airport as this last part of the Corsica leg before he departs back to the Vatican. Very close to where you are. Seema Gupta, thank you so much, our correspondent in Rome.